Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. And now in this video we are going to be doing the second video covering Scream. A few months ago I made an early access Scream video and I talked about her saying that she was my most wanted champ. I went ahead and grinded the 6-star, ascended her so that I could get some practice with a SIG 200 6-star, but since then I've been lucky enough to get her twice out of this Titan pool, and then I gave her 60 extra SIGs. I think they were mostly cosmic SIGs. So she is now a rank 3 7-star SIG 80. And what I want to do in this video is talk a little bit about her utility. We know how good the damage is. She can eliminate health pools in battlegrounds. There is a really neat rotation that people like MSD and others have shown where you utilize the auto block for openings and building your armor breaks and your bleeds, and then you just absolutely nuke them with one special 1 and one special 2. That is a great way to play her. But there are times where you need things like her undermine, or you need lots of buffs all at once. So what we're going to do in this video is sort of take a look at some alternate rotations. And I like to kind of avoid the terminology of rotations because it's a little bit too rigid for me. She's a very fluid champ, and sort of knowing what you need to upkeep and which combos to use and which specials to use, it all kind of leads into this idea of a rotation, but it's more of just understanding her kit and which parts of it you want to emphasize in each fight. So we're going to take a look at 4 fights. This one is going to be a little bit on the shorter side, and I'm just going to kind of narrate the fights, and hopefully by the end of this you'll realize that she's a very versatile champ, not just good for battlegrounds, but she can take on large health pools as well, and a variety of situations if you know how to play her. She is most likely going to be my top candidate to bring to rank 4 when I get the materials for rank 4 number 2. I do have a video about who my first rank 4 is. If you're interested in that, it's probably the video right before this one gets released. But she is very much at the top of my list for consideration when it comes to using my generic materials to take somebody else up. And hopefully at the end of this video you can see why. So without further ado, let's roll the clip and here's some Scream gameplay. Hey everybody, before we get started, I did just want to show you this. Over the past month or so, you can see that of all the views on this channel, 75% are not subscribed. Now, I'm personally coming up on the 5,000 subscriber milestone, and it would mean a lot to me if you're not subbed, if you could just hit that sub button, and it'll really help things like the algorithm, and it gives me more motivation to make more content for you. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But if you could do me that huge favor, hit the sub button and share this video, it'll mean a lot to me. Alright, so we're going to start with the EQ boss. This is Arnim Zola, and a great way to counter this guy is being able to parry non-contacts. However, we have the next best thing, which is this blue auto block buff that essentially allows us to auto parry every hit that he gives us that is a basic attack, and if it's a non-contact one, it just automatically reparries for you. But if he does cycle through his combos and get to a basic attack that is contact, you will automatically parry stun him, which allows you easy access to stuff like getting rid of the protection by heavying him down, and also heavy attacking him in general is a good way to reduce his charges and make him less dangerous. The other thing going on in this fight is that he is bleed immune, but when she faces a bleed immune, she has an armor break replacement. So essentially you're getting 2 armor breaks per debuff that would be applied. These benefit from the deep wounds mastery even though they're not bleeds, and all of the effects of having bleeds or armor breaks work the same way, so you get the extra burst damage. So this is just a great example of a way to counter him that isn't parrying non-contact hits. It's like an automatic safety net, almost like training wheels for reparrying, that will let you cycle through his combos and get those stuns in. Pretty amazing stuff there. We just finished with 100% health. Now next up, you all remember Epic of Pain, right? That was a few weeks ago, but this Nebula was giving some people some trouble, and people were thinking you need Odin shock resistance buff in order to do this with Scream. Now it has the Gimme Shelter node, which means she is going to auto block us a ton if we don't have enough buffs. So I had a really creative way to deal with this fight. Basically, you could try to build buffs the natural way and then eventually get your Undermine, which is a way to deal with auto block. But I thought, hey, in my last video I talked about maybe someday there'll be a scenario where the special 3 is going to be the solution to using Scream. When you throw the special 3, you get all 8 of your buffs at once. You get max madness in the stacks of 8 there, and when you throw a special, it doesn't consume madness the first time you throw a special. So the way auto block works, if you hit them while they are stunned, then you can still bypass the auto block. So what we're doing is dancing around when she's unblockable, but when she goes back into the shock phase, as long as we are able to parry stun her, then we can safely hit her 2 or 3 times. I usually do light, light, light. That's kind of the safest way. The same goes for the relic stun. And now we're gonna just throw the special 3, and you'll see here what it does is it gives us all of our buffs, and now we have plenty of buffs to deal with the Gimme Shelter node, because our ability accuracy against this auto block is now reduced to the point where we can just bypass it for the rest of the fight. So at this point, it comes into a very simple fight where we're baiting her special 1 and we're throwing our special 1. We're mining the unblockable, and we're being careful not to like hit her own block when she has the shock thing, because even though we're able to bypass auto block, we're not really able to bypass just, you know, taking the shock damage from just blocked hits. Now, just like the last fight, she is armor break, or she can be armor broken, but she can't be bled. And it doesn't super matter in this fight because the way to do damage, it has that extra node where it's basically all about applying some kind of debuff with a 1-second timer. But, you know, the reason that we're spamming our special 1s is that is going to be consuming a little bit of madness to give us these fervors. If you have 3 fervors, it means every single basic attack is going to apply an armor break. And that means if you're kind of slow comboing, you can basically apply 3 of these within the span of 1 combo and get the little burst of 2% damage, and she goes down very easily that way. So again, to reiterate, we went up to the special 3 first. I mentioned in my last video, I knew that someday there would be a scenario where you would need to do that. And I think I found it here. I really do think this is the safest way to play this fight, because building the buffs is very difficult when it has the node where anytime you well-timed block, it will nullify one of your buffs. When you get nullified, it reduces your madness and you just kind of lose your whole rhythm. But once you get to the point of having all these buffs, the Gimme Shelter is completely turned off, and additionally, you don't even have to play her in a way where you need to parry stun and worry about the nullifies. And then of course, if you accidentally nullify or something, if something happens where you accidentally lose one of your buffs, it's very easy to simply like medium and then get the buff total back up. Not to mention, between the auto block and the fervor and the undermine, we have plenty of buffs here to work with. So this was a fight that was difficult for some people if they didn't have the Odin pre-fights, and it took 150 hits because, every debuff only takes 2% damage, and that doesn't happen on every single hit. But we ended with 97% health. That is using the special 3 in a rotation. Now next up, we're going to the CCP beta server, and we're going to talk about Red Skull. Now, a lot of people love to start the fights with the auto blocks, but notice that will consume madness. Now, I want you to watch something. It said armor failed when the fight started. She is not Sig 200. If she was Sig 200, starting with 4 madness would mean every time he would never gain any armor. However, at Sig 80, the ability accuracy is not such that it's that high, but it's still pretty darn good because right now he has 0 armors. Between the armor break and the ability accuracy of armors against techs that she has being reduced, we are in really good shape. And the other thing that I'm trying to keep track of is making sure that I end with medium attacks to keep the undermine up. So this is a fight where you're not thinking of the traditional things with her. You are trying to make sure that he never has armor, and the way to do that is to either have enough madness or be applying enough armor breaks. That means, if you get auto blocked, it's not the end of the world because he doesn't do any damage on block if he doesn't have any armors. And the other thing is, if we have enough madness, then we are reducing the ability accuracy of armors. If we have fervors, it means that we're going to be armor breaking on every hit. If we have the undermine, it means that we're going to be able to bypass the auto block altogether when we bait the special 1s. And all of that comes together in a beautiful way to counter this Red Skull. By the way, he had 1 million health And because we were able to manage our stuff, not rely on the auto block, we just played her, maybe reduced our damage a little bit because we weren't doing those armor breaks off of the auto block. We got a 1 minute 20-second fight, and it was a beautiful thing. Last fight of the video, Penny Parker. We don't have to worry about our madness here and keeping that up because she doesn't have any armors that we need to control, but we do need to keep this undermine up. So you'll notice I'm ending in medium combos a lot more than you normally would with her because we need to have that undermine up, and the way to do that is to consume the madness with an auto block and get a new buff that way, or to simply end in medium attacks. So, you know, if I can, I'm going to try to keep my madness up when I throw my specials. But even more important than that is ending in medium attacks almost at all costs, because we want that undermine uptime to be up the entire time. And a lot of people think, oh no, she's going to suffer some damage because you're not focusing on building madness. You're only worrying about the undermine. But what you're seeing here is this isn't a million health Penny Parker, and we're just focusing on keeping that undermine up. Look at that. All those armor breaks meant that we were able to break the shield with just one combo, right? Armor breaks reduce the amount of damage mitigation that she has, so that's a way, it's almost like having furies in terms of getting rid of that shield. So now we can do whatever the heck we want because she won't auto block us. But even so, I see the shield is coming back, so I think it's somewhat important to keep this undermine up. Right here we're going to get a little lucky with a medium, and we don't trigger the auto block, but we're just going for broke. We're going to throw this special 2, maxed out debuffs, boom, she goes down. Again, 1 million health, 1 minute 23 seconds, almost 100% undermine uptime. So a couple myths to break here. First of all, the special 3 does work. Second of all, she's a good Arnim Zola counter. I haven't necessarily heard her being talked as one, but even though she doesn't have the traditional ways to deal with him, she has the ability to eventually reparry and get him stunned, and she just has really good damage despite him being bleed immune. And then when it comes to Red Skull, the thing you want to focus on is high madness to get the armors down. She doesn't need Sig 200. The only place she needs Sig 200 is Path 3 in Alliance War, because for that one, you can't have any armors, right? You just don't want armor to ever show up. So I can understand why you would want that to be Sig 200. But if it's a Battlegrounds match, you could see that like that Red Skull barely ever got 1, maybe 2 armor in the entire fight for 1 million health. You can keep up with it with your armor breaks and the ability accuracy, but it's key to not use your auto block automatically against him. You want to keep your madness high so you get that ability accuracy, keep the armor breaks and the fervors going, and then nuke him with a special 2. And then Penny Parker, it doesn't really matter how much madness we have. We're still doing plenty of damage. The key there is just keep that undermine up at all costs. You can do that by, you know, charging your heavy, getting an auto block, replacing it with a buff, it'll give it the undermine, or just simply medium, you know, end with your combos with mediums and you can keep the undermine up. So going into this video, you kind of need to know a little bit about Scream. I think before understanding all this, I didn't break down her abilities and all that, but if you are a Scream user and you made it to the end of this video, hopefully this was a little enlightening for you in terms of learning a thing or two about this character. Hope you've enjoyed this video. She is one of my absolute favorite characters, and I wanted to show her in a couple new and different ways in this video. And with that, we're going to call it for today. So thank you so much for checking it out, and I'll catch you in the next one.